Hello everybody, our gardening channel, and today we're going to be showing you how to plant figs in ground. This video will show you everything you need to know and everything you need to prepare for. Okay, so the first thing we have to look at is the plant selection. So here we have our fig plant. Now, depending on where you live, if you live in a mild climate like I do, you can plant your figs in the autumn, that's no problem. But if you live in a cold climate, or if you have your fig cuttings, you should plant them in the spring because that is the best time of year for those. Now, when you actually if you go to the store to pick your fig, make sure you get a nice, healthy, vibrant plant, especially if you're looking for one in the spring. Okay, now let's discuss site selection. Site selection is one of the most critical parts of planting your fig. So, generally speaking, the most important thing is to not plant your fig in a place which is going to have a lot of water pooling up. They really do not like to be in a place where water just drains there and sits there and stays there for a very long time. So that's the only important factor when it comes to figs and soil. But other than that, whether you have sand or clay, it shouldn't really be a big deal. The most important thing is to just add organic matter and they should be very happy. Now, in terms of sunlight, right now it's the evening. In terms of sunlight, just make sure that the plant gets at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. This site here has maybe 5 or 6 hours, but that shouldn't be a big deal. They will produce anyways. And here's everything you need: a shovel, something to remove the mulch out of the way, and a bigger shovel if you are planting something very large. Make sure to have some water on hand. Rainwater is the best, but any water works. And make sure you, of course, have your fig. This particular fig is a green variety. I'm most likely sure it's a Cadoda, although it could be a Adriatic, something like this. And this was started from a fig cutting, so if you would like to know about how to start fig cuttings, you can check out that video. And so yes, let's just get started. Okay, so before we actually take the plant out of the pot, it's better to dig a hole that's the size of a pot, just in case it starts raining or if I have to leave or something. At least the plant is secured. Okay, before we actually get the hole dug, we need to make sure we get a 1 by 1 foot area of the weeds removed in general, just so that the plant is not being choked out by them. So let's do that first. Okay, and there I cleared a lot of the large weeds. This area has a lot of weeds right now, but I will be mulching it anyways. But just make sure you remove all the large grasses and weeds from the immediate area surrounding where you're gonna plant it. Okay, now if you have a mulch, let's just make sure that we are going to pull back this mulch to expose the soil layer before we actually start digging, because we don't want to get that too mixed up. We want to preserve as much of the soil layers as possible. So yes, just get the mulch around in a circular area and make sure to get it passed by a lot so that the soil and the mulch don't mix too much. Okay, now that we have our mulch removed out of the way, let's make sure that you have a platform where you can put all your soil so it doesn't get mixed up and all over the place, and you can backfill that hole. So just make sure you have a place to put your soil. Okay, now it's just the process of digging this place out. So I'll be back with you guys once we have the hole dug out. Okay, so now we have our hole finally completed, and so now let's show you how to take the fig out of the pot and measure whether it can go in the hole or not. Okay, so this is the step that you're gonna have to be the most careful with, because fig roots are very delicate, so you should take your time a lot with doing this. And the first thing we're gonna do is squeeze the pot to loosen up that soil there. Now the soil in this is dry to kind of moist, so we're going to pull this out at one step and see if it comes out. So as you can see, it's come out pretty nicely. You can see very nice, very healthy root system here. Now it's not really dense or root bound in any way, so if your roots are very bound and circling in many ways and they're very squeezing each other out, you should probably loosen them up. But this one, as you can see, the root system is not very complex, or it's not choking itself out, so this is actually very healthy, very good. And let's see if this will go in the hole. So you can see here, it's a little bit above, so I might have to dig a little bit deeper, and we'll show you guys when I do. Okay, so now this is more like it. You can see the fig is level with the ground, and also when you put the fig in the ground, make sure it's level. This thing is a little bit slanted, so when you put it in the ground, it's basically your time to make it straight and vertical. Another thing I probably should have mentioned earlier is that you should be doing this when the weather is very nice, very mild, in the evening or on a cloudy day in the spring, in the milder times of the year. So make sure that you give the plant enough time to adapt. And so now let's just begin to backfill, and we'll start out with the more clayer, denser soil, and we'll pack it around the roots. So you can see we'll start with the native soil, put it in the gaps, and continue until we fill this thing in. And we're gonna make sure we put this in tight so that any air pockets or any holes or any oxygen that's left in there is not, there's not a lot of bubbles of oxygen or something, because that can be very harmful for the roots. So I'll show you guys once we have this done with, and we'll give you a few more suggestions. Okay, now that we have all the soil back in place and patted down, let's return the mulch back around the plant. Okay, now our fig is finally set and ready in the ground, hopefully ready for an amazing life with great production. And during this time of the year, in March, it can be a little bit dry, so let's just give it a nice deep watering. Depending on the size of your plant, you should probably give it around a couple of gallons of water. Something like this, probably a gallon should be enough. Whatever its pot size was, give it the same amount of water. So 5-gallon tree, 5 gallons of water. And I think that should be sufficient enough. And given a year or two, your plant should look like this. It should be a couple feet high. And this is the time of year where our figs actually start budding out. So if your figs start budding out, that's probably around the time you should be planting them outside. So yes. And this is everything you really need to know about planting figs. It's really not that complicated. They're actually one of the easiest fruit trees to plant, and just follow a few precautions. Make sure the timing is right. Make sure your plant is healthy when you put it in. Make sure you just choose a good ideal location, and that's about it. It's really easy. And if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I'll update on this plant, and have an amazing day.